Mr. Speaker, 2 short months ago, Tropical Cyclone Nargis struck the coast of Burma, killing tens of thousands of Burmese citizens. The response of Burma's military leaders to this devastating catastrophe demonstrated their fundamental disdain for the welfare of the Burmese people. Repeated offers from the international community to provide desperately needed assistance went unanswered. Thousands of veteran international relief workers were denied visas. Instead of dispatching Burmese troops to help the victims, the government proceeded with its referendum on a constitution drafted by an illegitimate assembly. This referendum was written without the input of Nobel laureate and Burmese opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Even today, the restrictions placed by the government on international aid workers has severely limited their ability to help cyclone survivors. The disastrous manner in which the Burmese government handled the cyclone comes on the heels of its violent crackdown on Burma's saffron revolution last September. Buddhist monks, draped in saffron robes, peacefully marched through the streets of Rangoon. They were joined by tens of thousands of other Burmese citizens, calling for nonviolent change, freedom, and democracy. The reaction of the ruling regime to these peaceful demonstrations is predictable. Unarmed monks were shot in the streets. Those who weren't killed were hauled off to detention centers. Political dissidents were tossed in jail. In short, the saffron revolution was crushed, along with the aspirations of the Burmese people for democracy and a better life. These brutal actions demonstrate the moral bankruptcy of the regime. Unfortunately, the regime is not financially bankrupt. While the Burmese people live in great poverty, Burma's military leaders continue to take Burma's vast natural resources as their own. The legislation before the House today hits the regime where it hurts, in the wallet. By blocking the import of Burmese gems into the United States and expanding financial sanctions, the legislation will take hundreds of millions of dollars out of the pockets of the regime each year. The legislation is supported by U.S. industry. The 11,000-store Jewelers of America supports a ban on Burmese gem imports to the United States. Major retailers like Tiffany's and Bulgari have also voluntarily implemented such a ban. The amendments to this bipartisan bill provided for in this resolution, which have been carefully negotiated with the Senate, promotes a coordinated multilateral approach to sanctions against Burma. The European Union has similarly banned the import of Burmese gems, as have the Canadians. It's our hope that the financial sanctions contained in this bipartisan bill will push other countries to examine their own financial dealings with Burma. As we move forward with H.R. 3890 today, I do want to thank the ranking member of the committee, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, as well as Peter King of the Homeland Security Committee, for their strong support for this legislation and for democracy in Burma. Thanks also must be given to the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Charlie Rangel, the chairman of the Trade Subcommittee, Sandra Levin, as well as their Republican counterparts, Jim McCreary and Wally Herger, for their enormous help in moving forward with this bill. And finally, let me thank Speaker Nancy Pelosi for her continued leadership on this legislation. Since the first shots were fired in Rangoon, the Speaker has firmly indicated our intention to significantly tighten sanctions on the ruling Burmese regime. Today, we fulfill that promise. Mr. Speaker, Burmese freedom fighter and Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi memorably asked of the world community, I quote, "Use your liberty to promote ours." So today we use our liberty in the United States Congress to ratchet up the economic pressure on the Burmese regime to move towards freedom, democracy, and respect for human rights. I urge all members to support the resolution, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves